I'm Brendan here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. And it's 10 things we love about punk. Yes, the subgenre of punk from the old school days of Sex Pistols, Ramones, The Damned and all that to the modern version that's pop punk, punk rock, all of that. Everything thrown into one. 10 things we love about it. And as always, further down the line, 10 things we hate about it. It is what it is. It's one of our genre ones. I think we've only ever done black metal as a genre 10 things.
Black metal and maybe power metal.
Ooh, did we do power metal?
I think so.
Oh, you might be right, actually, because I do remember talking a lot about things like Blind Guardian
and fist pumping and
yeah. So we're still missing the likes of thrash and death and all that, but that's for the future. This is all about punk. So get us started, I guess. Yeah, go first.
Okay. First thing then, I guess, is just its reason for being, I guess. You know, a troublesome time, a difficult time, saw a collection of angry youth channel that energy into raw and raucous music to call out an unfair system, which I think is fantastic. And although for some reason I found a lot of the time in a lot of my things here, I found a reason to call out the youth of today, which is stupid. So I did end up with it's so much better than the angry youth of today who instead pour their energy into sharing things on Facebook. Why don't they go out and create a genre of music?
Have they? No, you're right. Yeah, we kind of double up on this already. My very first one I wrote was the original anti-establishment, and the important word there is original. The original anti-establishment alternative culture aspect of punk. You know, when I think of punk, I do tend to always think of the British scene as well, and I think of the anti-establishment, anti-Tory, anti-Thatcher, and all that sort of stuff that may have grown from it and been encouraged and blown up from it. Yeah,
I mean, it was anti-government.
Yeah,
not specifically anti-Tory.
No, I don't know my errors. I'm just trying to think of who was in power during certain periods.
It's a weird one with punk, though, isn't it? Because although I'm no diehard fan, but I've learned a lot about it in researching for these lists, a lot more than I ever realized. And like actually the punk that we both would reference, which is really the sort of like 70s, 80s punk, is classed as a second wave of punk. You know, with the original punk really coming under the name garage rock back in the 60s.
Garage rock has made a resurgence these days as well.
It's quite interesting actually once you get into some of the detail behind it and like all of it. Some of it will come up actually in these lists. So but yeah, okay. So my next one on the list.
Go on. I just want to add that Brendan wasn't sticking up for Thatcher there. Don't worry.
Oh no. I just I hate all politicians equally. So whenever anyone calls out just Labour or just the Tories, I like to point out no, it's all of them. That they're all devils. That'd be us taken down from YouTube. Can we say that? We can probably say that. Yeah.
You're all right.
Yeah. Okay. So. Not necessarily all of it, but a lot of the image of it, I was always quite cool on. Yeah, I never really not talking about any of like the big kind of green Mohicans or anything like that, but a lot of the other stuff, you know, which kind of got seconded, I guess, into the metal scene. But it sort of started there, which were like the outrageous T-shirts, you know, the willingness to offend somebody by what you wore on your chest, the tight jeans, ripped jeans, boots, studded jackets, studded leather jackets really started off in the punk fashion sense of it. And a lot of that things have just become almost synonymous now to metal, I think, you know, and I guess to a degree you almost think that's the metal look, but it wasn't always, and actually it all came from somewhere else, and a lot of that somewhere else is punk. Yeah. Which I think is cool. So
yeah, we did not work together on these. We really didn't, because my second one is the punk subculture look. And I always look at it this way, as how something is transcended into pop culture, modern culture, in that if you stood a 6-year-old, you know, housewife or house husband that's never gone out much and so on, shops in the locals and that's it, and then stood a kid in the 20s and then brought on a punk. So we are talking a spiked haircut, a mohawk, as Brendan said, an anti-government T-shirt, perhaps a jacket with studs on it, leather pants, you know, that kind of thing, maybe some braces, things like that, and said, what would you call this person? And I reckon they'd both go, a punk rocker. And that's the image. Yeah. And while it has obviously its own like negative in regards to the whole like anti-establishment now, as it's become a recognized uniform, so to speak, I always thought it was cool. It's before my time. It was way before my time. But yeah, I always thought it was cool. It was unique in the sense that I never really thought that, other than like maybe like a spiky hair, it was anything uniform about it back when people were doing it.
Yeah. That's cool.
Let's see if we've got a different one for the third.
Yeah, this is quite a short one because I mean, I would have liked to have gone into this. I probably should have gone into this more because I read a lot more on it, but I don't remember a lot. I think I thought, I'll just remember it all, but I don't remember fuck all now. But I really, I mean, we said about like, I enjoyed the reason why punk kind of existed, which, you know, in the second wave of it, where, you know, they're just like, I don't know, that kind of council estate youth kind of look, you know, just saying, oh, fuck this, we'll do what we want. But I also like the fact that it was generally used by bands as a way of protest.
Yep.
You know, and although I know a lot of people have disdain for them these days, but back in the day, the Sex Pistols were a huge thing, and they were brave and they were courageous, and they called out the monarchy, they called out governments, they called out the BBC. You know, they did what they wanted to do as their way of protesting. It was a way of getting their voice heard. But away from that, and I don't want to demean anything in the UK, like as in, they weren't big things. There were actually bands like, I've got two names here that I don't know a lot about, but the two bands' names were Wild Youth, and there was another band called National Flower.
Okay.
Now, these two bands were in South Africa. They're South African-based punk.
Ooh.
And they used their music to protest apartheid.
Ooh.
You know, so they would hold, you know, concerts where they would refuse the segregation, and they would
dangerous
go, exactly, yeah, and that was their way of protesting, their way of getting their voice out. And I think that's a really powerful thing, man. That really is, especially when you look at not necessarily even modern times, but even like 20 years ago, the way that what protesting has become, which is generally march on something, wave flags, burn some poor shopkeeper's building down, even though it's not his fault. You know, back then it was like, you know, we're going to get our voices heard. You know, let's do that by creating not even just a genre of music, because it was a whole culture.
Yeah.
You know, we create a culture, and then the fans are going to be involved, and we're going to become one singular voice so loud that people have to hear us. I think that's amazing. More amazing when you get out into these things like, you know, the idea of, and that's why I said, I don't mean to demean it, but, you know, the Sex Pistols protesting the monarchy, completely cool. But when you then go out to say South African, you go, wow, you know, because that's the sort of thing you could be killed for. You know, that's amazing that music can bridge something like that. You know, can pull things together and be used by way of protest.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'd never heard of either band, let alone
no, me neither.
Trying to challenge apartheid in that way. It does, as you say, you don't mean to demean any other subculture in regards to Sex Pistols and some of the American bands like Ramones and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like chalk and cheese. You can't think about
I mean, and that's only like one example. When I was looking up, I mean, I'm never going to remember a lot of this stuff, but I know that there was like a whole female part of the punk genre that was empowering feminists and, you know, things like that. And then it was also, oh my goodness, I'm never going to get the word, but it was called something like punk queercore or something like that, which was for like transsexual, homosexual, you know, people who identified differently. You know what I mean? This was like an amazing way to protest. This wasn't like a government run, let's see if we can get 10,000 signatures and have it debated in Parliament. This was like, something that it started in one person's mind, you know, in one city, in one country, and it enveloped the world to the point where you had people in as far away as South Africa who are now buying into this ethos. That's insane, man.
Yeah, I think the feminism one, it was kind of run under the name of like girl power.
Yes, yeah, that's it, something like that. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So we're not complete idiots about it. We have done a little bit of looking and trying to understand things. It is fascinating, and it's a shame. It's before both our times, really, that this was rising and growing.
I 100% believe I would have probably bought into the punk culture if I was of that age. I'm convinced I would have.
Yeah.
The same way as we bought into the metal culture as we were of that era.
Yeah. Instead, just ended up listening to Green Day.
Well, not all of us.
Okay, my third one. It's pretty simple. One of the things I love is that the UK punk scene became such a force in the world. We're not just talking about in the UK, but the world. The Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Damned, to name three of the big names, still today are revered. The Damned take some shit. I know that, but they were massive. But look, the Clash alone, Sex Pistols, these are names synonymous with punk and worldwide. Whether you like them or not, different story. But yeah, British punk scene.
Yeah. Okay, my next was just a story that I read while I was doing my research, and I laughed so hard, and I thought that's a great fucking story, especially as the person it was about. And I guess we only know a lot of it's the problem sometimes when you read about punk people, like from bands of the past, is we don't know them of the past. We know them as they are, maybe of more modern times. So, but anyway, this is about Billy Idol.
Okay.
And you know, again, that's why I'm saying I never really would have gone to Billy Idol straight off as he was punk.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. Yeah.
You know, but he was. That's the thing. Is just that we don't know that far back. But anyway, this story happened. So this was in 1989. A wild, hard party in Billy Idol racked up $149,000 worth of damage in a Thai hotel room. The management attempted to kick him out, but the punk rocker refused, so things escalated until the point that the Thai army had to get involved. They attempted to negotiate, but Idol, in the throes of a binge, was having none of it. So in the end, he was physically dragged from the room by representatives of the military after they shot him in the chest with a tranquilizer gun. That's the end of that story. And I just thought, like, yes, that is having it, isn't it?
Wow.
Great story, man. Tell that to your grandkids.
Yeah. And people are like, oh my God, so-and-so threw a mattress out the window. And it's like, did you hear what Idol? The army fucking came for Billy Idol.
They sent the army to stop one man going fucking berserk, and they had to tranquilize him to get him out.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I love that.
That is literally that I fought the law and the law won. That's literally what it is.
Great story. Love that. I didn't know that. My next one is just a band. I had a little think and I was like, well, let me put a band down of the early, or at least this, Brendan described a second wave of punk, but I wanted to think, and I was like, which punk bands of those era do I actually say to people, oh, like? Because truth be told, I don't like a lot of it. And we'll get to that in another list. But I was like, which one do you like? Which songs, when you think, yeah, I've heard a lot of them. I like a lot of people what covers, and they're probably your favorite then, if that's the case. And I went with the Ramones. My favorite early day punk stuff. Great catchy tunes, got a lot of fucking vibe and groove to them. Yeah, the Ramones overall. I decided it was them.
Cool. Another one of when you were naming bands earlier on, I talked about people that went on to be global names. You know, everybody knows the Ramones.
Yeah.
Or I think so.
I didn't add them with the UK part because they're from like LA or California or one of them. Yeah.
Okay, possibly one of the reasons why, you know, maybe even you don't like it, you know, all the bands and all that from back then. But one of the things, I'm trying to find where it was, I quite like about the idea of punk, but not necessarily always the sound, is the fact that it's really quite simple. It wasn't about the most talented people or the most practiced musicians or anything like that. It was just like a common person grabbing a guitar and making the noises they wanted it to make. You know, sometimes good, sometimes bad. It was very, very raw, but it was very, very real. And it just goes to show really that, you know, how much of a true statement could be made without having insane technique. And I guess that is a true form of art, isn't it? That is a person, I don't know, expressing themselves without that skill, but just going, do you know what? I know 3 chords. I'm going to go for it.
Can't sing for shit.
Yeah.
I can spit words out, and that's what's needed. I got a snarl to my voice. I've got a
story to tell.
You know, let's be honest, Johnny Rotten made a career out of the simple fact that with that British accent and his snarl, the geezer was a vocalist.
I think a lot of it, but no, because it kind of comes into my next one anyway. But it's about the story behind it was more important. The message you were putting out was more important than your ability to deliver it. Yeah. You know, I'll get to that in my next one.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll go somewhere completely different, which I'm sure you won't have anything like this. The death of punk led to punk rock and pop punk. And whether you like it or not, that scene has been incredible. From the rise of The Offspring and Blink-182 and so many others and stuff like that. I'm going to get to another one actually by starting to name bands, but yeah, moving into the death of punk, it wasn't what it was. Of course it wasn't. But you know, the seeds were there. These people, these kids, were inspired by it, but wanted to actually play their instruments, sing, and have rhythm and catchy tunes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that one.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
So you know, kind of going on about what we were talking about, really, with you know the fact that you didn't, I don't know, need to have maybe gone to music school or you know, had 100 lessons with a drum teacher or anything like that, or a singer or a vocal coach or anything. But I think I really love the fact that punk rock is very much based around ordinary tales. You know, it's like it kind of celebrates the mundane. You know, it's dull stories from the streets, like the real world. There's no gloss, no glamour. It's just music about how they really felt. There's no real push for commercial success. You know, I know that eventually punk went on to have great commercial success, but I 100% believe that was not their intention. They didn't set out to be punk to try and secretly get commercial success.
You could never have foreseen
No.
that.
Yeah, they would speak freely about their opinions on other people, on politics, on the way the world was. You know, you just find real life in a grimy council estate or a nightclub or a dirty bar all rolled up in punk songs. You know, it's by the mundane for the mundane. You know, it's music for the common person.
I like that. Mundane for the mundane. That's,
I just called myself mundane, but there you go.
No, but it's a that's poetry, man. Punk rock and pop punk bands. So ultimately, I have to put this in a love, because where did I find my feet in rock and metal music? It was with pop punk music. Green Day, Blink-182, The Offspring, to name just a few, back in the mid-90s, when I was a young boy and trying to move on from the days of Queen and Meatloaf and stuff like that. And it's like, these were the bands that grabbed my attention. I didn't know the difference between punk and punk. I thought back then, these guys, this is what punk was. So for me, that was awesome. Yeah, look at me, you know, I'm listening to punk music while Green Day are warbling on about, you know, Macy Day's Parade and stuff like that. I thought that was punk, obviously, you know, and what I know now is not what I knew then. But these are bands in this genre, and what evolved from punk is what helped me find my feet in this music scene.
Cool. So I'll go for a nice easy one next, just to get it out of the way, and that was just the energy.
Yeah.
You don't really think of ballads and stuff like that when you think of punk. Well, there are some punk love songs and, you know, that sort of more emotional stuff and that. Even their love songs tend to have, you know, a bit of an upbeat tempo and a bit of an energy to it. You know, for the most part though, you're talking high octane, aggression, energetic, big hits, you know, like lots of jumping around. You know, I'm not a huge fan, I know that, but you know, I love that kind of in your face, fuck the world style that eventually became an important factor for the metal world as well.
Yeah, it's so important. Yeah. Agreed. And just continuing off with my last one, but separating it because 10 Things was hard. Ultimately, punk rock as well. I think it's probably up there as one of the best gateway styles of music for people who want to have something a little bit more with an edge to it and can't just dive in at your Cannibal Corpses or your Emperors and stuff like that. Punk rock, pop punk, whichever one you want to go with, is a great gateway where you get a little bit of hardness, but you are not moving too far away from something that's quite commercial. It's a great gateway. Yeah.
Yep. And then for me, it's the humor side of things. Then the punk rock doesn't take itself too seriously. While it can be serious and deal with serious topics, it's often done with a sense of irony and sarcasm from bands who didn't wallow in self-loathing or despair and instead found humor in the humorless.
Yeah. My God, you're
I'm a bit of poetry for everyone tonight.
It's amazing. Oh, my next one's just an album. I was like, okay, what if you were to look at an album then? I did a band, so let me look at an album that I think is punk and had a massive impact on me. And I realized some people are going to dispute this as being a punk album in relation to perhaps the early days, and I get that completely. But this was the last sort of proper punk record I think they did, and it's The Offspring's Smash. And that's kind of the album where I'm like, that's as close as punk Offspring. And that had such a massive impact on me, man. That was such a fucking important album to me. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. It's my last two. I suppose I could easily have made these one, but there you go. The first one is just the kind of freedom, the idea of it. So, you know, at its essence, punk was about doing whatever you wanted to do. That's really what punk meant.
Yeah.
It wasn't, you know, there's no judgments, no rules, no dress code. It was about freedom of expression, of speech, of everything. And while it got lost eventually to people being able to suggest you are or aren't punk based on how you look, which is completely against the, you know, the whole idea of there is no look, there is no uniform. You know, but unfortunately that's just the case these days, isn't it? Everything's judged so or so many things are judged on image. But I think the origins of punk are everything you could believe in. It's a noble idea. This idea that punk is a spirit, an ethos, not a haircut or a t-shirt style.
Yeah, well said. My second last one is it's my favorite style of punk music. I thought about this one as well. Was like, right, I've done a band and album. Which style of punk do you actually enjoy the most, and have you enjoyed throughout your year? And it's horror punk. So we're talking of bands like the Misfits, of course, the Cramps, and one of the more underrated one, the 45 Grave, not the 45 Grave, 45 Grave, who were also responsible for a track off the Return of the Living Dead. So they're quite an important band to me. So yeah, horror punk. That's taking it and having some fun with it.
Yep. Two genres. Well, getting your horror in there with the punk, I guess, would always improve it for you. If nothing else, wouldn't it?
I love the Misfits. Misfits been such an important part of my life as well.
Okay, so my last one then is the kind of bravery side of things. So I think punk, to be punk, it required confidence and bravery, which this is where I was like another little dig. Traits often lacking in this highly judgmental modern world. But if people pick on you for wearing strange clothes, you made them stranger. If you wanted to wear the opposite sex's clothes, but you're afraid to do it, punk would encourage you to do it, because the idea was, don't give a fuck about what anyone else thinks, just do what you want. And punk is non-conformance, but without fear of rejection or reprisal, because if you changed the way you looked through fear, that meant you were no longer punk. So it was very tough to live up to, but I would imagine the desire to be punk will have given many, many people back in the day the courage and confidence to be truly free in what they wanted to be. And that alone is quite awesome. After years and years and years of everyone telling them, you cannot look like that, you cannot dress like that, you cannot wear that, suddenly this whole wave of music washed over the UK, which said, stick your fingers up at your parents or the government or the police and wear whatever you want to wear.
Yeah.
It's all good. How many people did punk bring out of the closet?
Not wrong. Awesome. My last one then, it's the fact that ultimately, right, punk as a culture, subculture, we're not just talking about the music here, we're talking about the scene, it's dead. It has been dead for a very long time. But every so often in life, you'll see someone, and normally just by the image, you're like, oh, okay, and they're still dressing or potentially even trying to live that punk lifestyle. And credit to you guys for still trying to do that for 50 years later.
Yep.
In a dead scene, and you're still walking around with your Sex Pistols t-shirts, your mohawk, spiky hair, spiky jacket, and punk's not dead written on your back. Yeah, credit to you. It's a lazy one, but there you go.
No, it's fair enough. The idea, I guess, is punk can't die because it's a spirit. You can't kill a spirit.
Yeah. Well, I think that spirit was well and truly crushed a long time ago. But there you go. There's our 10 things we love about punk overall. Let us know yours in the comments, and of course, check back for 10 things we hate. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror, and heavy metal. What else is life for?